Aquarius Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2023 Astro Update. It's Raina here, and this is the month, people. This is the month. And I'm like, as we get closer to it, because I'm recording this on the 22nd of February, I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this going to pan out the way we think it is? Because even though the reason that people are making such a big deal about March is that we're going to have two outer planets both go into new signs, and that signals a sea change, if you will. It might be something that you don't necessarily feel right off the bat, although, I mean, one of these transits that is very, very, probably the most I was going to say important, but I don't really like saying it like that. But the noteworthy, let's put it that way, is Pluto going into your sign, because last time it did that it was during the American French Revolutions. And Aquarius is actually a very revolutionary sign in various ways. Although the Aquarius people I have met seem rather how can I put it? Non-emotional, not radical in terms of like anything. Well, no, I take that back. I know one Aquarius person who really does embody that, you could say that stereotypical or that pure Aquarian persona of like complete, eccentric and rebellious personality. But in general, the Aquarians that I have met seem very like chill, cerebral, and not wild-eyed necessarily. So, but because Pluto is the planet that is going into Aquarius, Pluto definitely has that intense, or I would even say heavy quality that when I say something is heavy, it weighs something down, but it also is substantial, which means that it demands the transformation that it promises. It almost demands it because it is very extreme, I think, Pluto. So I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to just like continue on. But actually, having Pluto in the 12th house isn't a trip to the beach, as you may have noticed. Although, who knows, maybe some of you feel lighter because that was the end of a cycle. Not everybody gets to have Pluto in the 12th in their lifetime. And if you've been clearing out karma, clearing out your karmic past, that can make you much more empowered, which is the highest vibration of Pluto, as well as that sense of rebirth. So anyway, the first house would symbolize that as well. So the month begins when we're still in Pisces season. The sun is in Pisces. Pisces is your second house of earned income, so there's an earthy, grounded quality to the energy for you in particular, because you have planets starting to amass in that house. You have the sun there. On the second, Mercury joins the sun, but it also joins Neptune. You have had Neptune in this house for years. Neptune went into Pisces in 2012, so it all depends on your personal chart, how this is going, where this lands for you or when this lands for you. But Neptune in the second house can give some Aquarians a spiritual view of money, where you just kind of like believe that when you need it, you'll have it, and you're kind of letting go. And this is particularly important for Aquarians who have inner planets in Capricorn, because you may naturally be like the Four of Pentacles, where you're holding on to your money for dear life. Um, and it makes you much more likely to see money as a means to an end, as simply an energy, and not get overly attached to it, and maybe be more altruistic with it. Also, this can be that you are working in a healing arts or artistic field, you're earning money that way. So when Mercury goes into the house, you may have some kind of paperwork. Of course, you might be doing your taxes, or you might be, I mean, this happens for you every year um, around this time. So it might just be like getting your financial affairs in order, or thinking about your finances for some reason. But it's interesting because on the 7th, we have a full moon at 16 degrees of Virgo, and then Saturn goes into Pisces. So Saturn also joins that crowded sector. And maybe you're anticipating, with Mercury there, you're anticipating what Saturn will bring. Saturn is one of your rulers in addition to Uranus. So I think that this might be why I don't think of Aquarius as a very free spending sign. Obviously, you can have other influences that would modify that, but I think there can be quite a let me choose my words very carefully. A certain stinginess that we would associate with Capricorn, or you could say economical to be more positive, and this is going to, I don't think this is going to make you, I don't know, is this going to make you even more so that way? You may simply be trying to get some sort of infrastructure, financial infrastructure in place, whether it's because you are retiring or because you are starting out in the workforce. Maybe you have your own business and you want to have organization as you try to do what you need to do there, or perhaps you want other income streams, and you want to just always have, because Saturn is about old age, or the long haul. So it could be looking at, some people might say passive income, but with Saturn, there's usually hard work involved, meaning that the person is, really putting their effort into making money in this money house. But maybe it's more being more efficient as you do so. Yeah, sometimes you might see that money seems to be a little bit less plentiful, but it might be that way to force some people to create a budget or do something to shore up their resources. It's I would say that Saturn doesn't like waste. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it will depress your income, but it may give you the mindset to not spend as much. Maybe become more of a minimalist. And you want to save more, conserve more. That's the motto of Capricorns: I conserve, and this is the ruler of Capricorn. This will be here for several years, and so when it leaves this area, you may look back and say, I really got disciplined. I had this assistance to do that, because you may not want to do those things anyway. And I also, the phrase that came into my mind right now is make do. I don't know if that, when that, I think that's an American phrase, make do, meaning, make do with what you have, use what you have, which is always a good policy. Instead of just throwing things away just because you're tired of them or whatever, and they still have value, you can repurpose them in some way. So, because the second house can be your possessions as well. That full moon is happening in the opposite sign of Virgo. So that is actually happening in the eighth house. And that is interesting because the eighth house is also a money house. And that can be something connected to, for instance, an inheritance, other source of money that is not coming from you. Full moon can mean that you become aware of it, or that the path to receiving it is here. Like, if it's like a probate, maybe this is the end of that season, something along those lines. And that might, just because there was a full moon in Virgo didn't mean that Saturn had to enter the opposite sign on the same day. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I consider that a definite synchronicity. And so that might have some kind of connection that, perhaps this is going to stabilize your finances if you are receiving some kind of money so that you don't have to, have that unpredictability going on. Because the Neptune in that second house can mean that there's some kind of confusion. And I don't know in particular how that would apply to you, but usually I think of people who are not handling their finances very well. They're never like paying attention to how much they have in the bank, and they're just kind of spending and without thinking about it. And so this is a little bit adding this kind of adult, the authority figure, which Saturn can be, and keeping you in line. But yeah, so that could be something. Also with the full moon in the eighth house, this can be letting go of an obsession. Well, this is one of the houses of addiction. So I've read about the fifth house, the eighth house, and the 12th house when it has to do with addiction. And I think each of these houses expresses it in different ways. And with the eighth house, in terms of addiction, I think it's like spiritual bypassing. Like OCD, I remember watching a talk show once, and they said that OCD, when people have obsessive compulsive disorder, it's because it's their mind's way of like kind of distracting them about a big problem that they have with these little minutia types of compulsive behaviors so that they don't have to feel that pain. And that immediately resonated with me. So that to me is one of the driving forces of addiction, is that it kind of like keeps somebody preoccupied with something where they're obsessed with, maintaining a habit, for instance, and then they don't have to think about other things. Not just that intoxication, which I would associate more with the 12th house, for wanting to just completely, or even the fifth house, the pleasurable aspect, but really about avoiding the shadow. So this is about shadow work, this the full moon in this particular house. Saturn into Pisces. Okay, so we got that. On the 16th, Venus goes into Taurus. This is another fixed sign. So this is going to be in your fourth house of home and family. Okay, and there might be some beautification projects, painting, decoration, getting new furniture. You could have money. Again, that full moon in the 8th, are you getting an inheritance? And now you have money to buy a house. Or are you selling a house? And who knows, maybe even that is connected to somebody else. Also divorce. I said about inheritance, but also divorce proceeds from divorce. Um, this is an area where your ruler is transiting in Taurus. Uranus is in the fourth house of home and family, so there can be sudden developments, and that could mean a sudden, buying a property when you get this opportunity and you just jump at it. This, well, I was going to say when Jupiter goes into this house, that will be even more so the case, but Venus will be long gone by then. So, but Jupiter is going to go into your fourth house, so that might indicate that you will have a great opportunity to purchase, to have a new home that is bigger than what you have right now, or maybe you could say more land or something. There's more space to move around. But even, it's interesting too, because with Uranus in this fourth house, you may favor not having a home, and Jupiter could be like the world becomes your home, where you live in a bunch of Airbnbs or something. You may get money from your mom, um, or you have harmonious relations with her. This is the same day that Mars comes out of its shadow. It has been in, a fellow air sign, Gemini, for 7 months. So now that it comes out of its shadow, it's fully moving forward. And, even when, as I record this in February, I can feel that sense of momentum building. So it's not to say that, we're stagnant until March 16th, but still, it's just part of how the transits work. And then, and this has been in your fifth house. This is where this has been residing. And in the fifth house, this is about love, but it can be about passion. Fifth house can be recreational sex, and Mars is your sex drive. So some kind of an affair or a fling. Affair sounds like you're cheating on someone. A fling, the Mars in the fifth house. I mean, it has been here all this time. It's about to leave, and actually, but this is really about if you are an artist, being very motivated to create, maybe more than you typically are. On the 19th, Mercury goes into Aries, and here we have again, let's see. So we have the fifth house. No, wait a second. Because I had to pause this and I'm thinking, okay, no, wait a second. No, that's not the fifth house. Actually, this is the third house. And you're going to start to see the energy move from the second to the third house. So we go from that earth element of practical matters into the mind. This is a fellow air house. This is Gemini's domain. Interesting that Mars has just come out of its shadow in Gemini, and then you have its ruler, Mercury, go into its own house, the third house. This is going to be a very important area for you this spring, Northern Hemisphere, so March and April. And going into probably like 2025, because you're going to have eclipses in these houses of the third and the ninth houses. And these are both houses of the mind. The third house is of the more practical variety. This can be dealing with any kind of news that you receive in general. I mean, siblings fall into this house, extended family members. So hearing news about them or speaking to them, maybe more than you typically do. This is also, I think this is the house of business itself, any kind of business matters, but it's teaching and learning. So acquiring new skills. You will have a solar eclipse here in April that may really open doors as far as if you're wanting to be a teacher or wanting to get new skills. That might just be something that is very strong within yourself. But also, Jupiter is already here. So Jupiter is expanding this area for you. And I would say, in particular, about positive thinking and about higher thinking, because Jupiter rules that opposite house, the ninth house, which can be the higher mind, higher learning. So sometimes what this might do is, if you are in the field of education, you might say, I want to become a spiritual teacher, that is what you want to do. So Mercury's in here on the 20th. The sun goes here. This is the astrological new year, so that's always a marker for humanity. And the very next day, there's a new moon at 0 degrees of Aries. So again, I said there's going to be a second new moon in the form of a solar eclipse here. So that's pretty interesting, because that means that this area is getting lit up like a Christmas tree. And then, so any intentions that you set about things that you want to study, any kind of skills that you want to acquire, meditation, starting a meditation practice perhaps. Those are all, because, when I say meditation, it's actually like controlling the mind, or, like taming the mind. That's what we say when we talk about meditation. And some people might find fault with that, because they think that, you can't, you shouldn't try to control something, that it makes it stronger when you try to control it. But it's really, you may hear meditation instructors talk about watching your thoughts. And they do that because that's a way not to identify with your thoughts without trying to push them away. On the 23rd, this is what I had alluded to earlier. Pluto goes into your sign. I'm not going to go too much in depth with this. I do have a separate video that is connected to Aquarius, for your sign, about the Saturn and Pluto transits and how they will affect you. This has been, not a great thing for me to say I have them. I mean, of course you could look on my channel, but I said I was going to put them underneath, but it's a little bit of an operation, and so I need my laptop to do that. So that's why I don't have that in front of me right now, but I will do that eventually, probably by the time, most people have stopped watching it or listening to this. But yeah, I'll do it. But you can also search my channel. But the reason I'm not going to talk too much about it is that Pluto is only going to go to 0 degrees of Aquarius, and some minutes. I don't remember how many minutes. So it's really, for some of you, you're still going to have, maybe the vast majority of you, it's still going to be in your 12th, and it's going to go back into Capricorn anyway until sometime in 2024. So it's really just kind of peeking its head out. But you definitely will start to see this happen in 2024. And if you're an early degree Aquarius person, so if you have, the first few degrees of Aquarius, I don't know how far it's going to get in 2024. Probably not that far. It's going to spend 20 years in Aquarius. So I think it's safe to say that this particular transit of Pluto in Aquarius, even more so than Pluto in Capricorn, that was kind of the first phase of the wrecking ball. But we're going to see such amazing transformation of our society into a society that is much more fair and really works for all human beings. I only wish that I was, younger, that I could experience more of that um, other life. But it should be. I guess there's some, if you're, you know, older. I don't know what older would be. Let's say past the age of 40 or so. To have that contrast of how things used to be and then how things are, that might be kind of exhilarating in its own way, because those of us who are older remember certain things, and then we can see the gradual dissipation of some of these, very, you know, hard structures that didn't serve humanity. And that's what Aquarius is humanity. So talk about the Aquarian age. This really does seem to point to that. This should be a very transformative 2 decades for you that are up and coming. But definitely do not think that just because it's not getting very far in 2023, that this is not a major shift for you, because it is, Aquarius. It is pointing to a new chapter in your life. On the 25th, Mars goes into Cancer. And so Mars is going to go into this area that is very practical, the sixth house. You may feel, for some reason, I think you're going to feel like, I want to just work, my butt off. Because Mars has been kept from that sixth house for over half a year. And maybe you have felt like there was something that you wanted to do, like some project with work, or maybe you couldn't work for some reason, and now you're just throwing yourself into your work. This is great too for anybody who is trying to improve their health through physical means, who is able to exercise, because you may be using it. The sixth house is Virgo's domain, and so Mercury rules this house, and it's connected to diet too. But sometimes people are so focused on diet that they forget about exercise. Now, of course, I'm talking about, a lot of people want to lose weight, for instance, but they don't see that movement can be so helpful in this, and not necessarily like doing things that are just like going to make you pass out because you're just overworking yourself, beating yourself up, through exercise. But just even like in a flow kind of a way, but very active. There's so many different things. So don't think that you have to like stress your joints in order to do it. Mars is very physical. So I do feel that for some of you, you're going to improve your health through physical means by, one mean or the other. Maybe it is weightlifting. I have no clue. But getting active physically, let's put it that way. Okay, well, I mean, it could be, a little bit of heat in the workplace, because that sixth house can be coworkers. So competition, maybe you feel competitive for some reason. I don't know, but that's happening, and that's what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings called Deep Dive, Double Astrology, an hour of natal chart interpretation, an hour of transits for the upcoming 12 months. So whenever you start, I start 23 to 24. For a special price. That's an important part of that, because I offer those readings separately. And, by buying them as a package, you save money. Then there's also a tarot reading in connection with either a natal chart interpretation or transits, called the whole enchilada. And then I have standalone readings as well. And you can find out more information at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.